Hello one and all, Jasper here, and because I have the intelligence that makes Hodor look like an archmaester, I decided to jump on to a trend that hasn't been popular for a year at this point, and rank a Song of Ice and Fire characters on a scale of who I could fuck up in a fight. Now, this usually only works if you have an idea of what I am, because for all you know, I'm a 7-foot man who trains with Brian Shaw every day. I mean, I'm not, but you never know. Let me give you all an idea of my capabilities. I am 5'4", so on the short side. I weigh about 150 pounds, and to give you an idea of my strength, my max bench is 160 pounds. Also, I'll need my own arms and armor, otherwise most everyone on this list will kill me because they have weapons. Now, I did my research and decided, given the period of Game of Thrones is very inspired by the War of the Roses, which is a 15th century setting, it makes sense that I at least meet the quality of a man-at-arms during this period. So, I will be wearing a placard fold, a salet in tandem with a bevor, pauldrons to keep my shoulders safe, arms and legs of course will be covered, as well and gauntlets to keep my phalanges safe. But what good is armor if you don't have a weapon to take care of the other bastards in their armor? So my choice of weapon will be a poleaxe with a simple longsword for a sidearm. So I should look exactly like this gentleman here, except about a foot shorter. This shouldn't surprise any of you, but I will be judging the book versions of the characters, not the show. And all of the art here was created by this talented gentleman. I'm sorry, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, as half of those symbols aren't even in my alphabet. With that all squared away, let's get started by taking care of the two easiest tiers. The easiest of them all being who I have no chance of beating. These are warriors not only could I not beat as I don't think I could ever beat them, as the talent and dedication they put into their skill of fighting and killing is time I don't have, and even if I did, I would not put all of it into learning how to fight like this. Characters like Oberyn, Barristan, Jaime, Gregor, and plenty of others go up here, and for good measure, one as well. I don't think anyone is going to argue on my behalf that I could handle anyone here unless I can trade my poleaxe in for a 12 gauge. Now, the next easiest part of the tier list, and that would be everyone who I can beat easily in a fight. It will be filled with all the children, cripples, women with no combat experience, old men, and weak men who also have no, if any, combat experience and training. Bran and Doran are pointless. Even if you put them in a suit of armor, they are just extra large paperweights. Dany without her dragons is just a teenage girl, so I can curb stomp her with little effort. Wyman Manderly might as well be a cripple with how fat he is. It's a miracle he can even move on his own. I will say there are a few characters in this tier that people might have issues with. First off, the Waif and Arya, and yes, I think I can beat them both handily. For starters, both are very small. Even though the Waif is over 30 years old, that's not going to help her much when she is trapped in the body of a 12-year-old. Their skills and talents that we see are in line with assassination, not fighting. Throw them into arena and I'm going to curb stomp the bitches. Melisandre has her hocus pocus vagina magic, but it will take far too long for her to use any of it in a battle. The most impressive thing she has done is set a bird aflame, though I am approximately the size of 15 of those fuckers, so I don't think she has a chance of just snapping her fingers and killing me. Even if she could set me aflame, I'm not going to give her a chance. I'm going to run at her and hack her to pieces before she can finish any Hogwarts casting bullshit. Now, that effectively takes care of half the list, so now we can go character by character and decide how fucked or unfucked I am. First up is Daario, a skilled warrior from Essos, leads his own mercenary company, and serves under Queen Daenerys. A pretty impressive resume, though it should be kept in mind that his armor is a bit on the lacking side, having little if any at all. I don't think he's ever been described as wearing armor. With that said though, he is likely wearing some protection, but because of the lighter build and having his peacock face revealed at all times, I think I have a small chance to kill him, though I wouldn't bet on me. Randyll Tarly, an experienced general who gave Robert Baratheon his only loss in the rebellion, though it should be noted that being a good general does not always mean you're a great warrior. Something to note is that he does have a Valyrian steel sword called Heartsbane, but it's useless because he wears it on his back, so he wouldn't be able to draw it. I win. Okay, if we ignore the dumb fantasy trope of the backstabber, then chances are I would lose. We don't know his exact age, but given that his eldest son, Samwell, is the same age as Jon, I don't think it's crazy to assume he's around the age of Eddard, give or take a couple of years, so old age isn't a massive factor. With all that, I think he would likely best me in one-on-one combat. Moving on to his boss though, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Mace Tyrell, whose pure masculinity would be enough to send anyone running. I can't believe I missed him. He'd go straight to I lose. Then again, he is a little on the chunky side, so maybe I have a chance. He also isn't portrayed as a very smart guy, so maybe I'm actually on par with him. Okay, this joke has run its course. I think I have a good chance of besting the rotund lord of the Reach. Now we have Sir Hugh of the Vale, and this guy is probably the closest to where I feel I am. Obviously, he isn't anything to write home about, but he did serve as squire under John Arryn, and as far as I'm aware, he must have had some skill since he doesn't belong to a great house, so how else would he have been able to become John Arryn's squire if there wasn't some potential? Plus, while he is only known for being killed by Gregor, let's face it, Gregor could kill a lot of people here. So for Hugh, I'll slap him into 50-50, but kind of on the lower end. Roderick Cassel, a master-at-arms to House Stark, and served as Catelyn Stark's bodyguard while on her travels, even cutting down plenty of the clansmen in the Vale. He's a bit on in years, but I wouldn't want to face him in battle. I still think I would have a small chance though if I was forced to fight him. Willis Tyrell, the son of Mace Tyrell, who you might be surprised isn't in the I Win tier since he is a cripple. One of his legs was crushed during a joust, and since then he mostly focused, if not entirely focused, on his studies than any sort of fighting or training. Though I am being very cautious here considering his younger brothers are Garland and Loras Tyrell, both very skilled fighters in their own right. So I feel like Willis might have some sort of genetic gift or talent like his brothers do before the accident took place. Plus, even without a leg, he can still swing a sword, and if he is half as good as his brothers, then I would be in trouble. I still think I have the edge though, I just don't think my win is guaranteed. Alrighty, looks like we have Ghost, and I'm gonna get a lot of hate at this, but I'm putting Ghost, along with all his brothers and sisters, in the good chance tier. The fact of the matter is, they are wolves. No armor to protect them, and I wonder if they could even get through my armor. Granted, they're dire wolves, which makes them bigger and stronger, but still animals. I'm confident in myself to take out a lion, so I think I can handle some dire wolves. The only exception being Lady, who I will put into the I Win tier because she was killed before she could grow up, and Greywind, who has far more battle experience against humans than the others, and has faced against armored men, killing them. These moments were in the chaos of battle, and I doubt he was able to rip open steel with his teeth and claws. Still, I can't ignore his body count, so I will at least bump him up to 50-50. Alrighty, Garland Tyrell, and this is a quick one. I have a small chance. We don't know a ton about Garland. He often trains fighting several men at once. Laura says he is the better swordsman than himself, and he took part in the Battle of Blackwater. I don't think he is quite good enough for me to have no chance at all, but there's a little one. He might trip and fall, who knows? Alright, Thoris of Myr, and many will probably want to put this guy at the top of the list for besting Sandor Clegane and winning plenty of melee tourneys. But most if not all of those were because of his fire sword, which spooked the horses of his challengers and of course scared Sandor. He is also fat, and I question if he wears any armor as it's not mentioned, but he can't be crazy to run into battle without any, right? Though either way, the fact is he was the first one to charge into the battle during the Siege of Pike. So even with all these aspects going against him, I don't favor my odds, so I'll give him the edge and put him in small chance. We got Asha here now, a spear wife, so clearly some experience in combat, but was still subdued by a bunch of teenage boys and a puppy. Okay, I might be selling her short here, but the fact is that she has little to no armor, does not give me a lot of faith in her besting me, and she doesn't really have any big fights where she comes out on top. So I have to put her in the good chance tier. I think more often than not, I'm a killer. Gendry. Very little if any combat training, though it's likely he learned a few tricks from the Brotherhood without banners once he joined them. Though something I can't deny is he has a large, strong body for a young lad his age. After all, he is the bastard son of Robert. Give him that bull helmet he made and, well, that will increase my odds because having a bull-shaped helmet is incredibly stupid. I think my odds are better than small, so he'll go into the 50-50. You can think of him more as a 60-40 fight in his favor, though. Mira Reed. I won't waste your time, good chance. A fishing trident is not the best option for a battle, and a net even less so. Gladiator used them to show off, but there is a reason why you don't see people using them when their life is truly on the line. Fun fact, only 1 in 9 gladiator matches ended in death, and that's probably inflated a bit by the mass slave battle deaths. Anyway, I rate her even less than Osha, so into the good chance, cause I will put a lot of money on me. And following right after her is Viserys, who is going to go in the same tier. We are not made aware of any sort of combat training. His most impressive feat is abusing his sister. The only thing I can give him credit for is he was brave enough to fuck with Drogo, but we all know how that went. Brienne of Tarth. She is probably at the top of small chance tier. Some might say she deserves to be moved to I lose. And you know what? I actually agree. I was going to put her at the top of small chance, but with Oathkeeper at her side, as well as the amount of bodies resting behind her, it would be a disservice if I put her anywhere below I lose. Davos Seaworth, and he goes into good chance. He's not a fighter by any means. He is wise, smart, kind, but those do not equate to being a great warrior by any means. Being a smuggler by trade, he would want to avoid confrontation no matter what. But I don't think my victory is guaranteed, as he is a pretty healthy guy who was damn near on the front lines in Blackwater, at least until he was blown the fuck up. So there must be some level of combat capabilities to be so far up in the danger. The Princess of the Wildlings Vow, one of if not the most capable spearwife, or maybe I just don't remember the others. Her most impressive feat is probably when Jon Snow sent her out beyond the wall to try and find Tormund, which she did succeed at, but good survival skills don't mean that you're going to be able to bust some heads. In fact, I'm probably just letting that pretty face of hers distract me. She's probably not better than Asha, so same tier as her, good chance. Jaqen H'ghar. Now you might think I would put him in the I win tier, since he is a sneaky weasel assassin, and I respect them about as much as I respect vegetarians. However, credit where credit is due, he at least showed some skill in an actual fight, cutting down a Lannister guard when assisting Arya with freeing the Northerners in Harrenhal. Still, it's not enough for me to be that impressed, so he can at least move up to the good chance tier. Now to Jorah Mormont, and despite getting on a little in years, he's still quite the powerful and skilled warrior, even being respected by the Dothraki for his skill. He took part in the siege of Pike, being the second man through the breach, and for his bravery was knighted by Robert himself. He jousted Jaime Lannister to a draw, though he did never duplicate the results to those jousts. Still, I would be a moron to think that I was the likely winner, so small chance is where he will rest. Beric Dondarrion now, a young man of 22 when he finally died, brave enough to take on both Clegane brothers, but lacked the skill and power to defeat either of them. I believe he was killed 7 different times before he finally stayed dead when reviving Catelyn Stark. I don't think I would have the edge over him, but I think I could do well against him. 50-50. Rattleshirt. He is described as a short man who is shown to be cowardly and treacherous. Jon Snow was quite confident he could best him in a fight, even though he was actually gearing up to take on Mance Rayder, who demolished him. However, with bones and leather being the best thing he has to keep him safe, I would just need one solid blow to break the bones he wears along with the bones inside him. Loras Tyrell, youngest son of Mace, and holds the honor or dishonor, depending on who you ask, in serving 2 Kingsguards, and has quite the resume, probably being the greatest jouster in the realm, but also a skilled warrior, slaying 2 of his fellow Rainbow Guard in a fit of rage after Renly's death. And Jaime Lannister seems to acknowledge his skill to some extent, even seeing himself in him at that age. In fact, when Jaime was sent to the Riverlands to pacify any resistance, it is Loras who he wished to put in charge while he was away instead of the more senior members. The only possible exception is Balon Swan, as he was sent to Dorne at this time if I recall, though I might have my timing wrong on that. Either way, it's clear I wouldn't have much of a chance, but there's still a chance. Speaking of Balon Swan, he's actually next, and I think he might be the most skilled member of the Kingsguard at the moment. Jaime seems to think he wears the white cloak well, and given it's Jaime, I think it's safe to say he is judging Balon in both character and fighting skill. When in Dorne, Ariel Hota sizes him up a bit, and at the very least considers him more dangerous than Aerys Oakheart, but still confident that he would be the victor. So a high small chance character is how I rate Balon. Now we got the King of the North, Robb Stark, a young lad who led his army on the front lines and never lost a single battle. Very impressive, but I have to admit I rate him less than others might. Keep in mind, in these battles, Grey Wind was always by his side, along with a strong host of powerful northern warriors whose sole duty was to keep him safe. You would need to get through members of House Umber, Mormont, Karstark, and many others. Yet there is some clear skill, though he's just a teenager and maybe I'm overconfident, but I think I have fair odds in beating him. Since we wrapped up the young wolf, let's talk about the old wolf, good old Eddard. And I'm less confident in besting him. Older and more experienced, while only being slightly out of his prime, I would imagine Eddard would best me handily. He stayed up with his practice in trading. After all, he did duel against Bronze Jan Royce with Sir Roderick. I mean, Bronze beat the stuffing out of him, but Bronze is a very underrated fighter, so I don't hold that against Ed. Though he is no great warrior, so a small chance is what I will leave him at. Tyrion is next, the smartest man in the Seven Kingdoms, and given his physical situation of being a dwarf, you might be surprised I didn't slide him into I win. Well, the fact of the matter is that Tyrion has surprisingly done well in a multitude of battles. He took part and survived the Battle of the Green Fork, slaying a northern soldier and taking another hostage, even if it was by the skin of his teeth. In the Battle of the Blackwater, he also took the head off a guy who was foolish enough to not wear a helmet or lost it, as well as several other soldiers he charged down while on horseback. Tyrion is probably the strongest dwarf I know. If we ignore every fantasy dwarf that ever existed. But still, on foot in the arena, I think I can take care of him, unless he pulls out some bullshit acrobatics he's had since the first book. So let's go with good chance. Roose Bolton. He's an older man who is clearly skilled commander, but little has been shown as far as him killing a few unarmed and unarmored people at a wedding. He might have been pretty tough in his younger years, but as of now, I think I like my odds in taking him down. Good chance. Khal Drogo, on the other hand, here's the thing. Despite his weapon being not the best against armored opponents, despite him having no armor of his own, meaning one solid hit would be enough to take him out, the fact is he is probably the most skilled Dothraki warrior to ever live. He is definitely stronger than me, so if he gets past my weapon, he could very much overpower me and use his dagger to slit my throat or stab my eye. However, because of his glass cannon fighting style, I just need to get lucky once to win. So I'll give myself a chance, a small, very small chance of victory. Theon Greyjoy. I honestly keep forgetting how old he is. I keep picturing him like 15, 16, but no, he's actually over 20 years old. So likely more experienced in warfare with sword and lance. He obviously has quite the skill with bows and arrows, though given my armor, that would be practically useless. So in his prime, I think he would be somewhere between small chance or 50-50. If this was current Theon, aka Reek, then I'm going to stomp his malnourished ass without a care in the world. Bronn of the Blackwater. He is on the higher end of a small chance tier. He is well armored and skilled with the blade. He has already been shown to deal with opponents who are better armored than himself, but he isn't quite at the top of the list of some of these monsters in the I Lose, so let's keep him right where he belongs. Edmure Tully is up now, and while the show and even characters in the book seem to think so little of him, I want to give him more credit. He is probably one of the nicest Lord Paramounts in the Seven Kingdoms, riding out with his forces to face the Lannisters and keep his small folk safe, even letting them hide in his own castle as Gregor was burning and pillaging the lands. Though he was defeated and captured, he was still eager to get into battle again. One of my favorite quotes from the book is from when he is talking to Catelyn about how he means to make his father proud. Cat tells him he was always proud, to which he responds, "I mean to give him better reason than mere birth." Such a good character who gets way too much shit. But the fact of the matter is he doesn't have much to go off. But I think he would be either at the bottom of small chance or at the height of 50-50. We can settle for 50-50 in this case. His uncle Brynden, on the other hand, no contest, I have little chance if any at all. He might even be good enough for I Lose, but I don't see him quite being in the realm of some of these great warriors, so small chances where he will stay. Tywin is next, and he is an older man beyond his prime, but he is very cruel and cunning, but he is described as being more of a commander from the back rather than on the front lines. I'm sure if he was 20 years younger it'd be rough, but just under 60, I'm going to drive him to the retirement home and put a pillow over his head. Stannis is in a similar boat to Tywin though, to a lesser extent. A bit past his prime and a more of a lead from the back of the lines kind of character, but with those Baratheon genes making him a large, muscular man, when he dons his armor and draws Walmart Lightbringer, I'm sure he can mess up a lot of characters from the book. So, into the small chance. Belwas I rate just under Drogo. No armor at all, the closest thing to protection he has is a buckler-like shield. Hell, he even lets every person he fights get a single cut on him. He is very strong, but he isn't quite as fast, though I betcha he is probably faster than me. Not in a speed race, but in a reflex manner. Right into small chance, and only because he has no armor. If he did, he'd probably be much higher. Hodor. Simple Hodor. One of the largest men in the world, and most likely one of the strongest, but he suffers from being a very simple man. Not really prone to violence of any kind. Heck, Bran had to work into Hodor's mind to fight off zombies. Even if you deck him out in armor, I'd be surprised if he even fought back. But a cornered animal is still dangerous no matter how gentle it is, so he'll go into good chance tier. Balon Greyjoy. I was tempted to put him in a tier with the likes of Tywin and Roose, but Balon being in command of the Iron Islands, along with having a history of being a capable warrior and raider in his prime, but that was a long time ago, and while we don't know his age, the fact that his eldest son Roderick was roughly the same age as Jaime, maybe a bit younger, hints that he is close to Tywin's age. But given the martial style of the Ironborn, I would imagine him still keeping up with his combat training to a greater extent than most people his age. He's going into small chance, though I think my odds might be a little bit better than small. Maybe 1/3? Jon Snow, and he is going right into 50-50 with his brother. Jon is a very capable fighter in his own right, but he is not the peerless swordsman that the show portrays him as, and the second coming of Arthur Dayne that the fandom seems to think. But he is slightly above average. He beat a bunch of recruits who had no training, killed Corran Affant, who let him win, and got manhandled by Mance Rayder. Still, slightly above average is better than me, but not by much. Alright, now we have Euron Greyjoy, and oh boy. While not as scary as his younger brother Victarion, Euron is still very capable in battle, and the fact the armor he wears is Valyrian steel makes me wonder if I could even hurt him. At best I could take advantage of his missing eye, making strikes in his blind spot, but I would bet my house that he has plenty of experience dealing with that kind of weakness. Small chance of victory unless he becomes an eldritch god, then I am rightly fucked. Obara Sand, the eldest and likely greatest of the Sand Snakes in regards to combat. However, we've not really read a lot about her doing anything. I'm sure she is skilled with Oberyn teaching her how to fight and stronger than most women, as she is described as being quite masculine and boyish, not to the same levels of Brienne, but it's worth mentioning. I would probably put her above Asha, but the thing is, Asha just has a lot more feats and moments we can look into. After all, we have seen her take part in battles, slaying many opponents, and given the culture of Dorne, Obara's armor is probably not as protective as it should be, so she will go into 50-50. I favor myself slightly, and since we just talked about her in this regard, Asha, she can go into small chance. Now we have Renly, who is probably the biggest upgrade from his show counterpart, looking like a young Robert in his prime, if a little more slim, but he has those warrior genes to him. He participated in tourneys and melees, but was never tested in true battle. I'm starting to think I need to put another tier above and below 50-50, but I have to save that for a sequel to this video. I'll put him in small chance. Ilyn Payne, the Royal Executioner, which is not very impressive, but he holds the title of besting Jaime Lannister in several sparring matches. Granted, this was one-handed Jaime, so not nearly as impressive as two-handed, but maybe it's because pretty much everyone is terrified by him. I can't help but get this feeling he is a more competent killer than he comes off as. Maybe he doesn't need those sentenced to death to be held down. He can probably handle it himself. I am putting him in small chance. I honestly think there is more to him than meets the eye. Now we got the sexy, fire-headed Ygritte, and I might get some flack here, but she is in a good chance. Her arrows are going to find it difficult to pierce my armor, and I don't care how good she is, the chances of her getting an arrow through my eye slit is less likely than me beating Barristan the Bold while taking a piss. And she will only get one shot, as when I close the distance, it's over. She has nothing to defend herself with, except for maybe her axes, and those are going to find it difficult in harming me, though it's better than a sword. And she could use her dagger to get into the chinks, but she would have to overpower me and get past my own weapons to do that, which I don't think is very likely. Syrio Forel, the former First Sword of Braavos, who is best known for training a little girl. In all seriousness, while I don't rate Syrio as high as many others, I can't deny that he is talented. Not every man can take out 3 armored guards with a wooden sword, which is probably how he would leave me. Give him an actual sword and I think my life expectancy can be measured in milliseconds. Though, being a more lightly armored fighter and me having a range advantage, I could get lucky and kill him with a solid blow, so I would consider my chances of victory being small. Grey Worm, one of Dany's champions, and I'll be honest, not super impressed by him. His fighting style is better suited for a battle where he locks his shields with his fellow Unsullied, not a duel. Plus, the fact he lost his balls at such a young age means he will produce less testosterone, which means low muscle gain. The fact the Unsullied are revered at all is a miracle, as most armies facing them on equal footing should demolish them. However, Grey Worm is more experienced than I am, and has taken part in a fair share of battles and fights, so he can go into the 50-50 tier. Alrighty, time for Robert Baratheon, and despite him at this point being a fat drunk, I would still fear this man if I was told he would be my opponent. The strength that Robert has, while likely less than his younger self, should not be underestimated, and his warhammer would kill me in a single blow. Throw in some thick plate armor and experience the few people can match, and I don't have much of a shot. However, I still have a shot. Him being overweight means his cardio isn't going to be amazing, and if I'm lucky, he will be too fat for his armor, so I can stick him in the stomach and be done with it. But assuming that the king of the largest empire in the world has enough funds to invent a breastplate stretcher or just buy a bigger one, then I am in serious trouble. Tormund, one of the most ferocious wildling fighters, even better than Mance Rayder, though that was by his own opinion. A part of me wonders how true that is. You know what? I was going to put him in small chance, but remembering that line changed my mind. Man is going into I lose. Ramsay Bolton, and oh, I would enjoy this because he's just a bully who fights like one. I don't think there is a single moment where he kills someone in any sort of fair fight. Sucker punching those who could probably take him handily, and torturing prisoners does not make a great warrior. He might be heavily armored in plate, but luckily my Polex can deal with that. Good chance. And finally, we have Sir Shadrich, a small man who fought for Stannis and now currently serves Peter Baelish. This is the guy who I hope to end up as someday in regards to fighting prowess. He isn't on a scale like most of the greats in this world, but surviving the Battle of Blackwater despite his size is impressive and worth note. My goal is to consider myself on par with him in 1 year's time now that I've started getting serious in exercising. That obviously means, however, that I don't think I am at his level yet, so small chance, but I will rectify this. And there we go. I think this list is decently sized, but obviously there are plenty of characters who I left off for the sake of time. If you're curious, make sure to comment their name down below and I will tell you where I think I would place them on the list. Also, are there any characters you think I rank too low and I should move up higher? I would ask if you think there's anyone you think I overestimate and should rate lower, but let's face it, none of you will take issue with me putting someone above me. With that all squared away, be safe, and I hope to see you all next time.